actual examples and the practice in those countries.
Dear colleagues, I want to give you some information about our experience of using biological protection products in growing of vegetables and in orchards. You know that for many years it was my hobby. I studied this question for 20 years, and last 7 years when we got strict restrictions concerning content of residues of pesticides in the product when you export it to European Union or to Middle East, such countries as Saudi Arabia or Emirates. You should be very careful with residues. And more and more people start to pay a lot of attention to this question. First of all, sorry. First of all, in the question of biological protection, we have a lot of stereotypes. First of all, that it's more expensive than using the chemical products. Also, other stereotype that it's less efficient. Next stereotype that yield under biological plant protection is lower, and the quality of the product is not so good, and shelf life is less. You know that if it would be 20 years ago, I would agree with all these sentences, but at this moment, it's not true. And I can share you with my practical experience, which shows that using the biological plant protection, in many cases, it's more cost efficient, more effective, and with obtaining much better quality of the product. As an example, I want to show you a practical case of growing of onions in Moldova last year, in season of 2022. It was a company named Bavasco, and we decided not to go completely in the biological growing. You know that life is not black and white. There's a lot of different tones. But during this last season, we use in our plant protection scheme only 30% of classical pesticides. The rest was biological products. As a result, part of the field was on biological, part was on chemical program. As a result, under the combined biological chemical scheme, the cost for plant protection was 1,100 euro per hectare, and in comparison with classical chemical protection, it was 1,700 euro. So the first stereotype that it's more expensive is not true. For example, it was a lot of questions from the colleagues concerning rodenticide. And later on, I will show you rodenticide ecological, which is much more effective than chemical ones. Then the yield on biological program was 20% higher. You know why? It's clear, because each pesticide you use, you give a stress to the plant. You don't see it, but it doesn't mean that you hurt the plant. It's like the plant is like humans. When we use treatments, we make a harm to our body. The same is the plant. The more pesticides we use, fungicides, insecticides, classical, the more harm we give to our plant. So that's why the yield was higher. We used only 30% in sprayings, the classical chemical pesticides, and product storability on biological is much better. The onion from the last year is stored until now in the warehouse. So this example shows that we should be more open to biological plant protection means, because it's more efficient, less cost, and the quality of the product is much better. I have another example which I don't have in my presentation, but I want to tell you that before the war, one guy which grow in Kherson Oblast, which grow tomatoes in plastic tunnels, moved completely to the biological protection, and the quality of tomatoes he produced was so good that it was a cure to buy the product. People want it because it was good aroma, good taste, and people was in queue to buy his products. In grapes, we have in Moldova, I don't know about Georgia, we have very big problem with botrytis. And in organic scheme, we completely solved this problem. In the chemical program, we was using very expensive fungicides like Tildor or Scala or others, and it didn't help completely. So with organic product from one German company, the problem was solved completely. No botrytis. And is not the easy system to protect the plant with biological means, and we should study very carefully with all aspects. First of all, is soil health. Applying a lot of fungicides and herbicides, we are killing our microbiota of the soil. That's why we have lack of good microbiota, and we have development of a lot of development of pathogens. That's why we should start with the soil recovery. We should start with the pathogen control in biological way, not chemical. And we should make saturation of our soil with organic matter. It can be in different ways. It can be with good crop rotation, such crops as soya or buckwheat, or we can introduce manure, or we can introduce ready products. And recovery of soil structure, which is critically important, because when you have over-compact soil and soil where your capillaries of the soil blocked with the sodium, you must take into account that with such atmosphere, your aerobical microbes will not develop. You have more anaerobical bacteria which will develop. And this recovery of soil structure is also very important issue. What about recovery of soil microbiota? It's crop rotations, if you're talking about vegetables, for example. It's using grip crops and cover crops. Introduction of beneficial microbiota. We have a lot of good solutions, and it's not so critically expensive as it was before in the past. And introduction of feed for beneficial microflora. As an example, this is a German product. It's just an example. It's a lot of such products. Why I show an example? Because this product contains a lot of components. First of all, it's mycorrhiza, mycorrhiza glomus. Mycorrhiza, you know what is mycorrhiza? It's symbiotic fungi which help us to take as much as possible our nutrients from the soil, and it's colonize the soil very good, and which gives us the volume of the soil which feeds the plant in several times more than when you just use root system. It's Bacillus amylolicifacins and Streptomyces and Proradix, Pseudomonas trillaris, and Hartzianum, Trichoderma hartzianum. It's very old and famous fungi, beneficial fungi, which used already more than 20 years. First, Trichoderma hartzianum I used in my tomatoes in the year 1998. The Dutch company named Koppert, Koppert is a very good, famous Dutch company, and in the year 1998, the guy from Koppert came and suggested us to use Trichoderma hartzianum. We had really good effect on tomatoes, and since that time, the biological protection became my hobby. Different products, different microorganisms works in different way. As I told, mycorrhiza improves assimilation. Bacillus amylolicifacins control Rasclodonia, Pythium, Rhizoctonia, Alternaria, Fusarium, and also it helps the plant to resist salinity stress much better. It's colonize the roots very fast, and that's why it make barrier for pathogens. Streptomyces, normally it's catching from natural microflora of the soil, and also it can help to control the pathogenic bacteria, and also it reduced population of nematodes. I know that nematodes are becoming more and more a problem. You know why? Because we use too much pesticides, we kill natural microflora. And for example, when you have a rich soil with the eggs of nematoda are killed by different fungi or bacteria, and that's why population is not increasing. When we kill the soil microbiota, nematoda become reproduct very fast and become a very big problem. Pseudomonas proradix and trivialis, it's a fantastic product. Bacteria, for example, Proradix, it's the most effective mean for control rhizoctonia. If somebody grow potatoes here in conference, understand what I mean. Rhizoctonia, it's a huge problem in such crops as potatoes and carrots. And chemical means never will be so efficient as Proradix against rhizoctonia. Trichoderma hartzianum, I think everybody know, it's nothing to say. It's very good colonized roots, and it's very good symbiotic fungi. About pest control, I don't know about Georgia, but in Moldova and Ukraine we have great problem with the thrips, huge problem, and we have very updated modern pesticides by different chemical companies, which not work. People can't control thrips, and we make fantastic thrips control with alkaloids, both in all the crops, in onions, in tomatoes, in gherkins as well, and cucumbers. What kind of pest control we can use? We can use pest control based on pheromone disorientators. on the basis of traps. For example, one of the company can show you kind of traps you can use here. Based on plant extracts from urtica, from sephora, neem, orange, thymian, pepper, so on, repellents, natural predators. Koppert company is produce so wide range of natural predators. You can stimulate the development of natural predators by the way in your fields, planting special fields around your field. For example, we have some plants which are very good home for Phytocellus, for example, or Orius. Orius is natural predator of thrips. We can use bacteria or fungi to control the pests, and we can create natural barriers. And last tendency is the polymeric silicone, which is produced, one Polish company started to produce it, and which is very, very, very effective against pests. So I've shown you, here you can see the traps, the mating disruptions, and so on. We have very wide range. If you come to Moldova, I can show you the orchards which completely protected by such products. So we have really a lot of good instruments in mating disruption and traps. For example, the product you can see in this slide is a product we use in onions against thrips. So this is combination of alkaloids. Of course, you must be very careful. The natural alkaloids has demand to your spray in solution that the pH should be in measures from 4.5 to 5.5. It's really critical point. If your pH is higher, this alkaloids doesn't work. So you must be really pay a lot of attention to this point. It's another alkaloids combination of alkaloids name based on sephora, which is extremely effective against aphids and and flies and particular mites. The same must you must have 4.5, 5.5 of EC or pH, sorry, in your solution. This is natural predators. As I told, we have now you can buy a lot of different kinds of predators, and I can show you. It's we have a lot of instruments. For example, this is a product which I love very much. It's from Ukraine. Company Enzyme Biotech, which main market for European Union. It's a combination on fungi Metarhizium and Bavaria bastiana, which very efficient in the soil pests. Very efficient. And works very good. You've said a lot of questions about damages by rats or mice in SDI. This is good instrument. The product is based on Salmonella Isachenko, the product name Ratter. We have a lot of other companies which produce the similar products with the same active ingredient. So I don't know any so efficient against no chemical substances will not give such efficiency against rats and mice. Okay. This is, I told you, polymeric silicone, which completely stuck the insects in your orchards, for example. About disease control, we have a lot of tools. also natural substances, bacteria, fungi. We have special means which promote self-defense of the plant, so-called natural elicitors. We have products which create natural barrier for pathogens. We have special products which are waste from the products of microorganisms. And last time, you can find already vaccines, because when you have viruses, the only problem, only products you can use to fight the viruses is vaccines. And we have already, you can buy already in the market vaccines, which you can use. Of course, it's expensive. Of course, it's only for glass houses or, let's say, protected, not for open field. But we have already these tools. The only biological can control it. Okay, this is very good product which we can use. It's also organic. It's certified by EcoCert. This is copper gluconate. Which also allows to has very small amount in ready product of copper, and it's a very good penetrating the plant, and it's the only product you can use on apples not to have net. It's the only product you can use during vegetation of cherries and plums. The only product. This is also certified by Bio. It's combination of copper and Ascophyllum nodosum, which also can be used in your plant protection in orchards and vegetables. And the last slide I want to show. This is compare with chemical and biological protection. Zero botrytis on the table. Zero botrytis on a table grape. You will never reach such efficiency in chemical products, and it was cheaper. It was 300 euros on hectare cheaper than chemicals. Thank you very much. I was.
Ძალიან დიდი მადლობა. მე ვფიქრობ, რომ ძალიან სასარგებლო და საინტერესო პრეზენტაცია, რომელიც მოგახსენებთ, რომ ყველა პრეზენტაციები არის ხელმისაწვდომი East Fruitis პროექტის YouTube არხზე.
Are available on the YouTube channel, and you can see them later as well. And now we have a presentation of Valery Yakovenko. He's a drone specialist, co-founder of Drone UA, and he works on these directions. He's the co-founder and the managing partner of this company. Unfortunately, he couldn't come for certain reasons, but he sent us the video and he is ready to answer your questions through the Telegram channel.
Dear colleagues, hi. I'm Valery Yakovenko, and it is a pleasure for me to be together with you today. We will speak about robotics in agriculture and about Ukrainian experience. I'm from Ukraine. So let's start. I represent a Drone UA company. We are working in the fields of robotics technologies up to for the last maybe 10 years. And about us, we are more than 100 employees wide. We are one of the largest distributors of XEG robotics technologies in Europe. We have our own departments and facilities to implement and create some IoT and GIS products. We are taking the first place in Ukraine about the robotics in agriculture, and we are happy to be a Ukrainian market, a part of Ukrainian market that became #1 in Europe in 2022 when we are talking about robotics technologies in agriculture. So I'd like to share that Ukraine's strengths. From our vision and from our experience, Ukrainian farmers are so open for innovations that we are facing extreme speed of implementing different innovations when we are talking about robotics. Up to 1,500,000 of drones actually are working in Ukraine when we're talking about pesticides protections with the help of drones, and it is the largest fleet in Europe, and it is in Ukraine. In 2021 and in 2022, more than 2.2 million of hectares was sprayed and protected by drones spraying pesticides. We are facing that in Ukraine. There is a new segment of technological companies, service companies in agriculture are being created. We have more than 100 of them as our partners, and they are widely distributing over the country all modern technologies, and farmers are using their services as robotics as a service tool. And right now we see that even new startups are being created. During war times in 2022, we faced the fact that a new startup called FarmFleet was created within the sphere of using robotics in agriculture, and it was done in Ukraine. It is already ongoing, and the project is running right now. So in 2022 and 2021, not only the fact that drones are just flying and protecting farmlands, the fact is that it is actually making some economical impacts. And just see the numbers. 2.2 million of hectares was sprayed during 2 years. It helped to grow more food. More than 300,000 tons was additionally harvested in Ukraine because there was used drones instead of classic machinery, classic methodology and technology of plant protection. We have created additionally more than 1,000 jobs in agriculture industry, and these are jobs with high salary because it is combination of IT and agriculture. And again, this is a possibility to attract new employees in rural areas. It is quite important. And more than 12 million liters were saved of fuel, were saved because drones use less fuel per hectare when we are talking about plant protections. Of course, it is more organic. Of course, it is more ecological. And for example, on the basis of ecological impact, drones helped in 2 years to reduce carbon emissions by more than 30,000 tons per 2 years. And additionally, we have a fact that drones are helping to reduce the number of used water or wasted water during implementation of pesticides protection, and more than 400,000 cubic meters of water were saved because drones are using less water during operations. There are several uses of using drones and robotics in agriculture. Mostly we know, and we are talking the most time about scanning areas, different kind of monitoring. We see drones as helpers to operations to understand better your field, see more or work faster. But it is started 9 years ago, and we all know that drones are quite important when it is about data processing or data acquisition. And in 3 years, a new market was developed. Drones are being used as an ACT tool. Actually, they can perform some protection jobs, and we see that drones are quite efficient in this. Not only on the wide scale areas, we are talking about orchards, we are talking about different small fields where drones are quite important as well. So agriculture monitoring, it is about collecting data. It is about visual inspection. It is monitoring. It is about collecting precise data for the measurements or for counting. Additionally, we can get up in the air multispectral cameras. We can collect infrared imagery. We can calculate vegetational indexes. We can understand the problematic areas where what are not being seen by the human eye, but we can see them with the help of drones. Everything is perfectly understandable and quite efficient. And everything comes from the fact that you have to fly a drone, you have to collect imagery, you have to process imagery, you have to analyze this imagery and understand where the abnormalities are placed. You have to collect exact coordinates, and by right now in the workflow of the digital analysis of the drone imagery, actually we need to go in the field on the precise coordinate of the problematic where you have seen some kind of abnormalities, and this cannot be undone. You always have to move in the field by your feet and see the problem, see the issue, and understand what is being done. After that, you can implement this information and actually take action. Most common is the differential ways to use pesticides or provide better nitrogen implementations on your field. So basically, this is about differential access to the field and understand it just better with the help of drones. Here are a few cases. One of them is from California, when we are talking about plum orchard. The total area of this orchard is 12.4 hectares, and drones are being used here, and the information is being collected much faster than in the traditional way. And one of the important ways in steps is that all this data is documented. The impact of the human factor is actually almost zero when we are talking about using robotics equipment to collect data and analyze it. Next case is coming from Netherlands. We have 10 hectares of the carrot field, and here we are using drones to modify the fertilizer applications, finding best and worst and best areas on the field where the nitrogen application is needed the most or not. The next case is coming from the Florence, Italy. Here we understand the accessibility of water in this plantation. We understand using multispectral imagery where we have more vegetation biomass or less. By it, we understand and correlate it with the water accessibility using different indexes. So before it was about scouting, before it was collecting information, it was about analyzing it, making some GIS products, creating maps, and understanding what to do next with classical machinery when we're talking about nitrogen applications or different pesticides. But the biggest revolution is actually happening right now when we are talking about drones as a tool to act, drones to spray pesticides, and this is happening right now. Here we have few setups of equipment. The first one is one of the biggest drones so far in 2022. It is a model XAG P100. It is capable to get up in the air 40 liters of liquid, and it is capable to cover up to 25 hectares per hour, and this is a quite large number. The next one is XAG V40. This one is a working horse in Ukraine. Right now, this equipment and these drones are most popular by Ukrainian farmers. And here we have a possibility to cover up to 18 hectares per hour with the single flight possibility, 12 minutes single flight. And it is about like a conveyor. You're charging batteries, you are flying. You are recharging batteries, you are flying. And actually, drones doesn't stay on the ground almost not in a minute during an hour. It is always in the air. You are just swapping the batteries, and this is a possibility to cover such a large amount of areas, such as 18 hectares per 1 hour. The next change in the robotics field is actually coming from the land robotics. Right now, we see how important it is to make a working condition of the employees who is working with pesticides better. And robotics equipment such as land robotics from like RF-150 drones, they are capable to work remotely, working with different areas, with different trees, with different orchards, and the pilot can simultaneously operate 5 units like this, and it can go on the ground, spraying pesticides, giving protection to the trees or to different or to other farmlands. So here about advantages about using robotics in agriculture. It is about water savings. Drones are capable to use less water. 95% of the water can be less used when drones are flying, and we are spraying around 6 liters per hectare and not 200, 250 per hectare like it was done before. And actually the technology is working. It is already proven both on the huge farmlands and on like some kind of cultures and or crops like sunflower or soybean, etc., but also in orchards when we are talking about apple trees, when we are talking about grapes, when we are talking about blueberry farms, and about this we will talk a little bit later. It is about fuel savings. Drones use less fuel. It is about using less pesticides, using concentrated mixtures. You can use 30% up to 30% less pesticides during an implementation. We have zero damage to the crops because we are flying above them. We have no downtimes when we are talking about exact time of the implementation of the phase of protection. For example, you can fly and use pesticides exactly after the rain. You don't have to wait after the land will dry a little bit like you usually do. You just can fly when it is needed the most, and this helps to grow more food and get better protection. And one more additional effect is about mobility. Drones are quite mobile units that can switch their locations by hundreds of kilometers just in one night, and this is a possibility to provide services. This is a key area of growing this technology. This is service business, robotics as a service. Here we will talk about very important use case that we have achieved in 2022 in April. This is an organic blueberry farm named Family Garden. It has 130 hectares of the farmland, and we used XAG drones, XAG V40 drones to protect it. We did it in 3 days, and here are calculations of the economic impact. When we are talking about comparison and about using biofungicide applications on blueberry, we have used 6 liters per hectare in drones. Usually it was done 400 liters per hectare with classic machinery. Result was the same. Here we have water saving. We don't make difference in the dosage of product application, so here are no changes, but the mixture was more concentrated when we was working with the drones. About fuel, drones in 3 days used just 30 liters of fuel, and the same amount of land was supposed to be used 390 liters per all this farmland when it was done by classic machinery in previous seasons. So here we have fuel savings in large numbers. When we are talking about speed of application, drones have done this job 4.5 times faster than in a classic way, and using less water, using different work shifts, we have additional economy. So just water helped us to save 400,000 hryvnias per this amount of work. We have made less by 10 work shifts in this period, so this is an economy on the labor cost. We have, and this is around 9,500 hryvnias. Additionally, all this effect made a difference in 440,000 hryvnias just per one application. And when we're talking about technological map of this farm, here we have a possibility to compare. It can be 22 work applications when we are talking about single component solutions, and in another logic, it is a possibility to make by drone just 17 applications. So it is a difference by the technological map, and here we will calculate the possible economic impact by year if we will use drones to perform this application. So if we will use drones to perform 22 applications, it is about saving 23,000 US dollars per the whole season. And when we're talking about 17 applications, 11 of them are being done by drones because they are single component mixtures. It is about 11,000 US dollars. If we will compare this amount with the cost of kit that was used to perform these operations, it costs 24,000 US dollars. We can see that actually return of investments in this equipment comes in just one season by this economy. But additionally, we have additional economic impact. First of all, when we are using drones, we have a yield increase, at least by 3%. This gives a possibility to grow more food, sell more food. When we are talking additionally about economic effects, it is about quality increasing. And quality increasing, it is also about economic impact. We can grow more food. So when both of these components are being united, we see that in economy we can grow more food in the amount of 5.1 millions of hryvnias. This is more than 130,000 of US dollars. And the key that was used to perform such economy just cost 24,000 US dollars. It is a great opportunity to see how technological innovations are helping to grow more food. And this is a way to make sustainable future for our planet and work with food safety on the global impact. So thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer all your questions in our chats. Thank you.
Madloba baton Valeris. Როგორც თქვათ, თვითონ შეგიძლია ჩატში მიწეროთ კონკრეტული კითხვები. შეგახსენებთ, რომ ხვალ ჩვენ ვნახავთ ამ დრონის მუშაობა
and ask specific questions. We will see the operation of this drone in Mr. Zurab's garden. We will be starting from Redison at 9 a.m. But next in our agenda we have the vertical, the farms and the greening of the logistical farms, so-called the poolings. All of this will be after lunch in 1 hour. Our lunch will be on the first floor. Miss Anna will take you to where lunch is served, and then we expect you back in an hour.
all